Hello, everyone, and welcome into Home Field Advantage presented by Capital One. I'm Holly Rowe, your host for the next 30 minutes. I'm from ESPN. You might know me from my sideline coverage from college football, and I am so excited about this one tonight. I'm trying to act like a normal person right now, but I've never gotten to talk with Coach Jimmy Johnson before, so I'm geeking out a little bit. So let me introduce our guest. This is maybe going to be our most spectacular event. Coming up now, this is one of the few coaches in football history who's won both the national championship for college football and a Super Bowl. Coach Jimmy Johnson, a legend and a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. Thank you for joining us, Coach.
Well, thank you, Holly. I'd say it's going to be fun talking about the Orange Bowl. That's some of my best memories.
It is. You always succeeded down there and had some of your best experiences there. Also tied with Miami, we can't think about Miami football without thinking about our next guest, Dan Marino, College Football Hall of Famer, also an incredible quarterback for 17 years with the Miami Dolphins. I know you also have some Orange Bowl memories because you still to this day hold one of the records for the old Orange Bowl football stadium for the most yards and touchdown passes. So welcome in Dan Marino, a true legend in Miami.
Well, thank you, Holly. I appreciate it. And I didn't know I had a record there for the Orange Bowl, but for the stadium, I guess that's great. That's awesome.
It is. I know it's sometimes confusing because we are like the old Orange Bowl stadium, but then we have the Orange Bowl, the event. So you're still a legend for both. How about that?
Thank you. And I'll tell you what, I've worked with Capital One at the Orange Bowl for the last few years, and it's a shame we're not all together like we have for years, but hopefully we're going to have a good time tonight, and it's good to be with everybody.
Hey, Dan, you say you didn't realize you had a record there. I got in trouble in one of our press conferences after one of our ball games. I went in and I talked about the game and this and that and walked out, and everybody come running up to me. Well, how about the record that Dan broke? I said, what record did he break? He's got so many, I can't keep up with all the records. But you got to mention the record that he broke.
Yeah, well, you know what? And now, Coach, they're just breaking them like it's nothing. They just go right by me and they didn't even say anything. Yeah, well, Dan, that was Marino's record. It's gone. Forget about it. That's okay.
It's so funny you say that. We were talking with Kenny Pickett, the quarterback at Pittsburgh, who I know really looks up to you, and you have kind of mentored and texted with, and he's been trying to break some of your records. I know you're close with him.
So you know what? The way the game has changed, college football, the way they're throwing the ball around with spread offenses, they're going to break records that I had 20, 30 years, 30, 40 years ago, it seems like now, just because of the way, college football is. And he's a great kid. He's a hard worker, tough. I love that kid. And he's helping Pitt become, a power again in the ACC.
Okay, so let's talk about memories because, Coach, you sparked my interest when you said you've had so many great memories in the Orange Bowl. This year, of course, the Capital One Orange Bowl is going to be so thrilling. Two really deserving teams in Texas A&M and North Carolina. But take me down memory lane. What would you say are some of your best memories?
Well, first of all, I've got to talk about probably the most devastating loss I ever had in college. We went through the season at Miami undefeated, had a great team, very talented team, and went out to the Fiesta Bowl and turned the ball over 7 times and lost 14-10 to Penn State. And, here we had gone through and had an undefeated season, but I was criticized up and down. They wanted to run me out of Miami, and we were 11-1. And then the next year we went undefeated again with a team that probably wasn't as talented, and beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. And such a relief for me, and to be able to win the national championship, right there in the Orange Bowl was a great, great memory. That's why they put me on their shoulders, and I was just screaming and hollering, I did it.
Yeah, that image actually was running on ESPN last night. There was this special on for 150 years of college football. I think that is one of the most iconic images of you kind of like on your back. The kids are carrying you off the field, and you're just like, it is the best moment.
Well, Holly, there's no way that I can describe how I felt at that time because of what we had been through the year before and going through and going undefeated again. and then beating Oklahoma. It was a great, great feeling. And then we went the Orange Bowl the next year and should have been undefeated again. Had we had replay, Dan, the Notre Dame game, we would have gone undefeated again. Lou Holtz has got his national championship because we didn't have replay. And then we beat Nebraska and had another great game in the Orange Bowl. But that Oklahoma game was the best one.
Dan, I know that you had so many opportunities to play down there, and although they weren't bowl games, you really do have some of the most prolific records still to this day. I was just trying to look. The top passing game in history in the Orange Bowl in 1984, you were 35 for 57, 470 yards. And I was like, oh my gosh, were they lighting it up like that? Were you throwing the ball around like that?
How about that, Coach? We threw it 57 times.
57 times. Oh, hey.
One time down there, we threw it 68. I threw it 68 times in a game once. That's crazy.
68 times.
Yes. Well, anyway,
Rob,
there were
say this.
I'm sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
No. Dan enjoyed throwing the football. I promise you that.
There's just so many great memories from the Orange Bowl, and just I think back about playing just the way the fans were in Miami, and it was for the same ways the University of Miami, and how the people came out and they just supported both teams, and just the excitement, and that place was just the environment was special. No matter if it was college football, pro football, it was just a special environment. And I just love it. I'm getting chills right now thinking about going out there and playing in the Orange Bowl. Games like the Chicago Bears, we beat them the one night, beat the Cowboys one time to go to the playoffs. And just the excitement and just the vibe in that stadium was amazing.
The other thing is it was an older stadium.
Oh, yeah.
So when you got excitement in that stadium, those bleachers and everything, it was rocking back and forth, and people were having a big time in that stadium, and especially for a night game, right, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the funny part is when you're on the field and you could stand out there, and I'd be in the huddle, and you could see the stands moving. They would move because the people were jumping up and down, and I mean, that's the kind of stadium it was that actually you could see it moving.
So we'd like to give fans who are on this right now an opportunity to ask you questions. So fans, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat and we will ask the guys your questions. I can't wait to hear from you and some of your fun questions you have. Okay, so I don't get to talk to you often, Coach. I really want to pick your brain because you were one of the kind of legendary guys in college football who really started focusing on the defensive side of the ball. And, you had such a great reputation at Miami for that. How are you seeing college football change right now? Like, if we really could do a chalk session, I would want to break down how you started the 4-3 defense and all that, but I know we don't have time for that. But how did you kind of get that ball rolling and how have you seen it transform?
Well, we were fortunate, there at University of Miami. We had so many great players and I wanted to make sure that we had speed on defense, and so we would take defensive backs and make them into linebackers, and we would have linebackers and put them at defensive end, and we could run. And of course, down here in South Florida, you can find a lot of players that can run, and a lot of them are overlooked or were overlooked. Now, after all the success that we had, everybody in the country comes down here and steals our players. But I think the biggest thing is that, in the old days, even when I got in the NFL, a lot of the linebackers were 260 pounds and they were taking on offensive guards. Well, I wanted to, put, those big tackles in front of those linebackers. Just like one guy that Dan played with, Zach Thomas, Zach was 5'11", 200 and, maybe 25 pounds when he first came in, and should go into the Hall of Fame. And we protected him and shoot. He made every tackle. Was just a great player for us. But he could run. He didn't take a bad step. And, he's a smart football player. But we wanted linebackers that could run.
I remember working some games way back in the day with Tommy Tuberville and him telling me that story of what you're describing. And he called it, we would upcycle guys. And he continued doing that, kind of had success with it when he was at Auburn. And Gary Patterson has been doing it now at TCU, where he would even take running backs and turn them into defensive linemen and get that strength and that speed on their defense. So I love what you're saying. I think you were kind of the inventor of that. So it's cool to hear you tell that story. Okay, Dan, he's talking about how things have changed. But for you, I literally can't believe you were slinging it around 57, 68 times, because for some reason, we think that the passing game has evolved so much. How have you seen it change, more so maybe with the zone read and some of the air raid type of offense that we're seeing so many teams run down?
Well, yeah, you hit it exactly right. I mean, we were just, as the Dolphins, kind of that young group with Coach Shula, we had with Duper and Clayton, and we had the talent to be able to throw it around a lot. So he took advantage of that, our skills, and we were kind of the first, group and team that was doing that thing. But now, I will tell you that it changed from the standpoint of the spread offense, as far as, RPOs. I never knew what an RPO was. There's no run pass option. You're either running it or you're throwing it. Right? So now they're doing all these things, and they take advantage and put people in space where you can get your athletes to have a better chance to make plays. I see it that way. At the end of the day, though, it's still like throwing and catching and tackling and just being a football player. And the systems have changed a lot. College football has changed a lot. I think it's changed for the better. You can see quarterbacks, I think personally, are more prepared now than they were, when I was coming from college now, because they've thrown it more, even from the time they were in high school, to college, now going into the pros. I think they're more prepared. It's fun to see and always enjoyable to watch.
Holly, I got to tell you a story.
Go ahead. Do it.
I got to tell you a story about Dan. One of our first practices, we went there, and of course, I'd come from, we threw the ball, but not like, Dan throws the ball. He was so accurate throwing the football. And so we're at a practice, and the linebacker was covering the tight end, and he was like, there wasn't 2 inches apart. He was all over him, and Dan threw the ball incomplete. I said, why'd you throw it to him? It looked like he's covered. He said, I saw the back of the head of the defender. If I see the back of the head, I'm going to throw it. Anytime he saw the back of the head of a defender, he was throwing at him.
Well, Coach, they can't, because the thing is they can't see the ball, and your receiver can, because he's got his head around, right? So it's that's.
So I learned something my first day of practice with Dan.
Yeah, nowadays they do that all the time. They throw it right behind the player. It's back shoulder, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking a little bit about the tight end situation. And like we've seen this year in college football, like I haven't seen in a long time, receptions by tight ends are up like 20%. And we were having a conversation with Nick Saban today, and he was so funny. He's like, we used to talk about it all the time when we were trying to defend Irv Cross, like how do you defend this big 250-pound guy, and how do you adjust to it? And how do you have a DB or a linebacker on this tight end? And he's like, we would do stuff and we'd be like, that ain't it. Whatever we're doing, that ain't it. So how do you cover tight ends now? Because we're going to see a ton of that in the college football playoff and in these bowl games. The Texas A&M leading receiver is a tight end this year.
Well, personally, you've got to get an athlete that's going to match up with them. I'm working on the set with Tony Gonzalez, and people like Tony Gonzalez, Travis Kelce, those guys. They're athletes. The old tight ends, block down and double team and all this stuff. That's out the window. They're really not tight ends. They're wide receivers lining up at tight end occasionally, and most of the time they're lining up wide. So it's really a different position than what it used to be.
Okay, I want to get to these questions from our chat. So Asher asks, Coach, championships are won with defenses in the NFL and college. Do you think that's still true to this day?
No, I think the game has changed. I think, in fact, Bill Belichick and I were having a conversation about this few years ago. We were out on the boat, fishing, just kind of talking football. And, I said, the most important, player right now is quarterback. You got to have a quarterback, a decision maker, somebody who can throw the football. I said the second most important guy is your second team quarterback. Because if you don't have that first teamer, you're not going to win. I said, so I'd make sure that I'd had two quarterbacks. And the way it is, they've changed the rules to where the receivers are not going to get hit going across the middle. You can't jam them. You can't grab them. So they're running free. I think, the rules are set up for the passing game. And so things have completely changed from what it used to be as far as defense wins games. I think right now, if you've got a great offense, you can get away with a mediocre defense.
Okay, we got another question from the chat. This one's for Dan. This is from Chris. How many touchdowns would you throw for in today's game? Like you mentioned it, the RPOs and kind of how the systems have changed.
Holly, I'll tell you what, the fact that I don't have to prove myself, I'm thinking at least 60. The fact that I don't have to do it. I mean, Coach just said the rules have changed, and it is amazing how they let receivers run and the pass interference and all the things that are going on, and you can't hit a quarterback. I mean, as a quarterback, you can stand in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if they just swipe by your face, it's a 15-yard penalty, and it wasn't like that when at the end of my career was kind of like that, but so you have an opportunity to stand in there and make throws and throw it down the field if you want to, and that's why the yards and the touchdowns are so far up right now.
Yeah,
I've got to just say this.
You threw plenty touchdowns. You threw for 61,000 yards and 420 touchdowns in your career. So I think you did okay on the touchdown front. Okay, Coach, what were you going to say?
Holly, I'll have to disagree with Dan though. He wouldn't be running RPOs, run pass options. It would be PPOs, pass options.
Pass or pass options. I love it, Coach. I love it.
Hey, he was more mobile than people gave him credit for. I'm going to stick up for him a little bit.
How many touchdowns did you score running, Dan?
So I want to say more than 10, but not more than like 10 or 11, something like that. So I ran most of those when I was younger. I remember one time Coach called a quarterback draw. We were playing in Atlanta, and I was like, why in the hell? I was 5 yards out. I'm like, what the hell did he call it for? And I actually scored. So it opened up. It was wide open, so I ran it in. I was surprised.
You're like, what are you calling and why? I love it. Okay, we got another question from the chat. This one is for Coach. Who was the most talented player you ever coached at the U?
Oh, that's one I can't answer. Number one, I don't want to offend anybody. Number two, there were so many great players. I was blessed to have so many great players my entire career, in college and in pro. That's the reason I went into the Hall of Fame, because of all those great players.
All right, this one's for Dan. What was your favorite moment during your college career?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was fortunate to play at the University of Pittsburgh, and Coach Sherrill had coached at, Texas A&M for years or whatever. Love that guy. We played, and we played in 4 bowl games, but the bowl game I played in Sugar Bowl when we came from behind against Georgia. And I remember going to the sidelines. It was 4th and 5, and Coach Sherrill was like, what do you want to do? I'm like, we didn't come all this way, to kick a field goal and tie. We're going for it. And throwing a touchdown on 4th and 5, like 30, 40 yards to John Brown, winning that game, that was pretty special. It was great. And I still get stuff from Georgia fans even today. Like, they just don't give it up. They need to get over it. It's been 30 years, 40 years. Just get over it.
Oh my gosh, Jackie Sherrill, I loved him. I got to cover him when he was at Mississippi State, and he would tell me all these good stories about back in the day when he was like at Pitt, and you guys were GAs back at Pitt, Coach. You all go way back, don't you?
Jackie actually worked for me at Iowa State, and he was just a young coach, and then we moved him up to linebackers, and then he got the head coaching job at Pitt. And in fact, I was at the Sugar Bowl in your game with Georgia.
Okay.
And because that's when I came in the year after Dan left. And so Jackie is a unique character. I will say that.
Oh,
Absolutely. Okay, Dan, what advice do you have for quarterbacks in this bowl game coming up January 2nd, the Capital One Bowl? It's going to be a good one. Kellen Mond, the young quarterback for Texas A&M, and of course Sam Howell, who's had a great year for North Carolina. What advice would you give these guys in this big moment?
So first of all, for any young quarterbacks like that, is just be yourself. Go out there, play your game. The moment is big, but also it's something that you've been working for to be in that environment. The kid Sam Howell from North Carolina he's an outstanding player. I've watched him a little bit this year. The kid can move around, run. He's got a big arm. He can throw it, and he should just be excited about this opportunity to play a team like Texas A&M. And I think he's going to do great in this game. And then Kellen is an experienced player. I mean, very experienced in college. So he's been around 4 years. I mean, he started for 4 years, not all 4 years, but been a really consistent, good player. And to me, for him, it's just go out there and turn it loose. It's your last game until you become a pro. So just have some fun and enjoy it.
Let it rip. All right, we've got another question here in the chat. This is from Asher again for Dan. Asher, we appreciate your questions. You've been very active and we love it. Dan, you were seemingly ahead of your time with so many free-throwing quarterbacks. Who is most like you in the NFL today? That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, look, there's so many great players that are playing right now at that position. And you look around the league, and guys that are past 30, like Tom Brady and Drew Brees. To me, a guy that I thought throws a lot like I used to throw the football was Aaron Rodgers. And I always felt like Aaron Rodgers will be that guy that'll throw that back shoulder, 20 yards down the field. He'll take the seams. He'll do those kind of throws. I always felt confident doing that kind of thing. And he is pretty special as far as just flat out throwing the football, just someone that can, make the throws that no one else can make in all kind of situations. Now, what Aaron is way better than I was ever close to is moving around in the pocket and getting out of the pocket and making those throws. And he just has a big arm, and he's a special player.
Okay, Coach, I want to ask you, you have won on every level that you've ever been on. And I want to ask, what is something that you have found to be a common denominator within yourself that allowed you to have success both in college football and in pro football? Because it's very unusual.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say that one of my strengths may be as a talent evaluator. And so I was able to accumulate, talent both in college and in pro. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed studying players. I enjoyed, studying the high school players when I was in college and college players when I, went to pro ball. Some of the teammates that Dan had, bringing in, Jason Taylor and Sam Madison and Zach Thomas, some of those guys. And so that was a big part of it for me. It was being able to bring players in. And, I had 5 things that I look for. Everybody can look at a player and say, hey, this guy's a great player. But, predicting success, how are they going to be 2 or 3 years down the road? And I always wanted smart players. I wanted playmakers. I wanted guys with some quickness. I wanted gym rats. Dan's a gym rat. Whether it's playing golf or shooting basketball or shooting, whatever. A guy that likes to compete. And those guys that if they don't hang around on their day off, competing with somebody, well, I just soon look at somebody else. But so I tried to look at the intangibles for an individual to see if they were going to be, better down the road.
Okay, so your lives together in football are so intertwined. I want to get the best and maybe the worst or funniest memory from both of you of your lives together in football.
Oh, should I go first with that?
You got it, Dan.
All right. Well, I will say this: what Coach just said, Johnson, is that the picking players and the competitiveness of all that stuff. He came in, and for me, it was a breath of fresh air. And not that the fact Coach Shula was unbelievable for me and whatever, but just to see the young players and all the things that he was bringing, and it gave us a chance. I mean, we won 3 out of 4 years. We won 3. We were in 3 playoff games and won some playoff games together. And that was very refreshing at the end of my career. But just I think it was the fact that the coach kind of let me do what I wanted to do, and we had people said in the press that we didn't have a good relationship. Well, we did. We had a good relationship, and it was one that I will say at times I didn't always agree with what he wanted to do. Because I said I'd like to throw the football at times. He didn't want to always throw it, and that's fine. We had our conversations about it. But, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed playing for Coach Johnson.
Holly, I got one story. Of course, when I first got there, I wanted to build up the defense and build up special teams and one thing or another. And we had this little linebacker we brought in with Zach Thomas, Larry Izzo. And so we're in the meeting room, and I always ran a special teams meeting. And I was going, I kept telling people, I kept telling the players, I said, listen, I'm looking for 53 guys. I want 53 competitors, 53 winners. And so we're looking at, one of I think the first preseason game. And Larry Izzo is just making plays all over the field. And so, I didn't really, I knew he was from, down in South Texas, and I'd watch film on him, but, he was a free agent. We hadn't even drafted him. I said, Larry Izzo. Yes, sir. He's in the back of the room. I said, where are you from? He said, Woodlawn, Wood Hills or something down Houston, Texas. I said, well, I want you to call your parents. I said, I'm looking for 53 players, and you're on the team. You're number 1. Oh, and by the way, Dan, you're number 2. So I made sure, okay, Dan, you're on it too.
I remember that clear as day, Coach. That was awesome that you actually did that with Izzo. And he tells that story all the time, Larry Izzo.
Oh, does he?
Coach, yeah. He's a special teams coach for the Seahawks right now.
Yeah.
Yes. He's out there.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was amazing. He recovered a fumble. He made a bunch of tackles. And Jimmy turned on the lights. He said, where's Larry Izzo? You just made the team. Call your mother and dad. You're on the team. Marino's number 2. Everybody else, the jobs are open.
I love it.
Remember that.
Thank you both. This is so fun. We love chatting with you guys and getting all of your great memories. Coach, next time you go fishing with Bill Belichick, please invite me. I would just love to be a fly on the wall and hear you guys talk football. Thank you guys so much. Please, thank you for joining us here at our Home Field Advantages presented by Capital One. This was our last session on YouTube, but there's more happening in the Capital One Orange Bowl Athlete Lounge, including you get to hang out with these guys a little bit longer. You can see that link in the description for more information, and be sure to tune in to the Capital One Orange Bowl. That is January 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern. And Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks, guys. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Awesome.
Yeah. Going to be a great game.
Yeah. A lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.